All right, guys. So Andrew Cuomo is getting increasingly desperate as we get closer to the general election for the New York City mayor's position. Obviously, we've been talking about this since Zohran Mamdani, the leftist, the socialist in the race, absolutely clobbered him in the Democratic primary. Now, obviously, not being able to stomach the fact that his own voters, his own constituency, and his own party rejected him once, he's deciding to double back and is scraping the bottom of the barrel in order to try to pull this thing out. And the bottom of the barrel in this instance is Donald J. Trump, who it seems like Cuomo is pretty explicitly at this point relying on the help from in order to try to win this election. So the headline here from Politico is Cuomo's seeking a Trump bump. So what are they talking about here? They say Andrew Cuomo's counting on President Donald Trump and top Republicans to tell the party faithful to vote for Cuomo for mayor if they want to stop Zohran Mamdani and not to vote for the GOP nominee, this guy Curtis Sliwa. So here we have a quote from this wealthy fundraiser from his wealthy donors, including many Republican donors up in the Hamptons, where Cuomo said, "We can minimize the Sliwa vote because he'll never be a serious candidate." And Trump himself, as well as top Republicans, will say that the goal is to stop Mamdani and you'll be wasting your vote on Sliwa. So I feel good about that. I feel good about that. This is a nominal Democrat that we're talking about here who's saying he feels good that Trump may come in and sweep in to save the day for him by telling people to vote for him instead of the Republican candidate. They continue. They say Cuomo seemed hopeful for the president's help behind closed doors, speaking to the more Trump-friendly crowd gathered at the media mogul Jimmy Finkelstein's home in Southampton. And another co-host of this fundraiser, former New York City Council President Andrew Stein, briefed Trump last month on how Cuomo would be competitive in the general election, according to the Times. So they have guys who are basically running fundraisers for Andrew Cuomo, who are behind the scenes briefing Donald Trump on how he can help Cuomo. I mean, amazing. An attendee asked Cuomo directly if he or his team was in conversation with the White House about how Trump might influence the race, and Cuomo didn't directly deny it. So he's not even denying that his campaign may be directly in coordination with the Trump administration as to how to help him defeat Zohran Mamdani. And final thing from this piece here, we had another quote. He says, "Let's put it this way. I knew the president very well," Cuomo said. "I believe there's a big piece of him that actually wants redemption in New York. He feels that he was rejected by New York. We voted for Hillary Clinton. Bill de Blasio took his name off things. So I believe there will be opportunities to actually cooperate with him. I also believe that he's not going to want to fight with me in New York if he can avoid it." He's saying openly, pretty clearly here, he wants to cooperate with Donald Trump, right? Think about this, guys. This is supposedly the guy who wanted to be the Democratic nominee. And thinking about the environment that we're in right now, with Donald Trump trying to lead basically a full-blown fascist takeover of the country, literally in my city here in DC, deploying the National Guard to occupy the streets here and sending ICE goons to go and harass minorities around every major city in this country. Think about the context in which we are in right now and what Donald Trump stands for. And he's saying, we'll cooperate with him. We're not going to fight against him. In fact, we don't even want to have that fight if it may come to pass. We're going to work with him, right? So Cuomo is pretty explicitly making it clear who he is in this race, as a contrast to Zohran Mamdani, who would actually fight against Donald Trump. And this isn't surprising, given what we know about some of the backers of Cuomo previously. I mean, this is all the way back from June. More Republican money for Cuomo. His Democratic primary election campaign was in large part backed by Republican megadonors, right? Trump backing Republican megadonors. So again, none of this is surprising in terms of the direction that Andrew Cuomo is trying to go. I mean, he is basically a Republican, right? And everything but name only. And at this point, he's not even the Democratic candidate. So I guess he's sort of like an independent who's running as basically a Republican at this point, who is seeking to align with Donald Trump to get him elected. And then I'm assuming there would be favors returned in exchange for Trump helping him in this circumstance. I mean, absolutely insane. Now, we continue because this might be even more insane than him directly potentially working with the Trump administration to bring down Mamdani, because Cuomo just found a new guy, this young guy down here you can see in the picture, to, I guess, run his media strategy or to run his social media strategy. So here from Matt Bender on a collection of some of the things that this guy Jason Levin has been talking about. This is who Andrew Cuomo vetted and then decided, yeah, this guy aligns with my campaign. This guy aligns with my values, and I want him to run my social media. So a couple of things here. He says, I voted for Trump in Pennsylvania. So yeah, I guess you can say I'm kind of a big deal. Call me Ron Burgundy. I don't even know what kind of joke he was trying to make there, but he's saying he voted for Trump, right? So we have a Trump supporter here who's going to be running his strategy, I guess. We also have him here saying, correct, if I as a Jew didn't know it, how the hell would he? Trump's been the best supporter of the Jewish people in Israel we could ever ask for. So mega Zionist, it also appears here. He also says bizarre things like this, like, ladies, men will happily pretend to be a Democrat to fuck you. Gad Saad calls this the sneaky fuckers strategy based on the behavior of giant cuttlefish. He says the zoological term for this is kleptogamy, where a male pretends to be more beta to reproduce. He says, watch out, stay safe, and always ask for voter ID. I mean, this is the kind of guy who this is. I'm not even going to read this last tweet here. I mean, this is from last year. These aren't like tweets from when he was 12 years old. This is from last year, guys. I mean, this is the guy who Cuomo is picking to run his social media. We have more. Here he is going after unions, right? Explicitly anti-union post. He says, which union are you going after? It's union busting time, baby. He mentions teachers, firemen, police, carpenters, bricklayers, steelworkers, actors, screenwriters, taxi drivers, restaurant workers. He wants to bust up unions. We have more. Here he is saying, I call ICE on my employees who aren't working hard enough, so I don't have to pay them. We also have him here again with some of these just like gross posts, I guess is what you would call them. He says, good evening, Brian Johnson. How many carrots do I have to eat for my eyesight to be good enough to see through women's clothing? So I don't know if Andrew Cuomo vetted this guy. He didn't vet this guy. Either way, absolutely unhinged to hire somebody like this who has this kind of a social media profile, these kinds of values that he's openly espousing on his timeline. This is who he's picking to run his social media campaign. So, I mean, again, to give you a perspective in terms of the kind of administration you would get from Andrew Cuomo, right? An anti-union administration, an administration that will be willing to work with the Trump administration, right? An administration that is going to allow ICE to run rampant through the streets of New York, an administration that's going to jack up the police budget even further than where it is right now, which is already larger than most countries' military budgets. I mean, this is the kind of guy who Andrew Cuomo is. He is owned by the billionaire class, and that's who he would serve. And that's the reason why there's so much panic amidst Republican billionaires, amidst billionaires in general, amidst the corporate media, etc., is because they know Zohran Mamdani would actually pose a challenge to the status quo and would actually fight for the interests of average working class people instead of the establishment, the elite class within a city like New York. So there's another reminder on that. We also have some updates here as we move on to the status of the Democratic establishment in relation to Zohran Mamdani, which is still, at this point, utterly despicable, right? We're talking about a guy who overwhelmingly won his Democratic primary against his competitor. And instead of dropping out and endorsing him, that guy decides to run against him, right? So much for the vote blue no matter who mindset, right? It's vote blue no matter who, as long as that candidate is an Israel-supporting neoliberal corporate ghoul, right? That's the only circumstance in which vote blue no matter who comes into play, I guess. And so the Democratic establishment, both the leadership of Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, they still at this point are not getting behind Zohran. So here's the latest instance of this, of House Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who is coming out declining to endorse Zohran Mamdani once again.
Leader, where do you land on this mayoral race in New York, and in particular on Mamdani? Who is clearly now the front runner in this situation, won the primary. You have not publicly come out endorsed him yet. And I'm curious what you're thinking.
Well, he ran a strong race in the primary, obviously, relentlessly focused on affordability, which is a big problem, of course, here in New York City, along with every other part of the United States of America. And he outworked the opposition. He outmessaged the opposition and out-organize the opposition. But now during the general election, of course, he's going to have to demonstrate to a broader electorate, including in many of the neighborhoods that I represent in Brooklyn, that his ideas can actually be put into reality. And that's, you know, the conversation that he's having with me and having with people who are community leaders and residents in the 8th Congressional District I serve.
And that sounds like you're not convinced then yet.
No, well, we had one initial conversation. It was a constructive and candid conversation. It was centered around the community. And in that conversation, he indicated he'd like my help in putting together additional meetings with members of the congressional delegation, as well as leaders in many of the communities that I represent in neighborhoods like East New York and Brownsville, Canarsie, some of the more lower income working class neighborhoods that I may serve. I agreed to do that. That meeting is being put into motion right now.
Still non-committal at this point. He still will not get behind Zohran Mamdani. And think about how amazing this specific quote is here. He says he's going to have to demonstrate to a broader electorate, including in many of the neighborhoods that I represent in Brooklyn. Keep in mind, Zohran Mamdani won by double digits over Andrew Cuomo in Hakeem Jeffries' district in New York. And he's saying, oh, he still has something to prove in my district, and so I can't endorse him yet. We need to have 100 more meetings with each other, I guess, before I can finally get behind him. We had another one here where he gives in to this Andrew Cuomo attack line that he seems to be going with right now. Andrew Cuomo is obsessed, as you can see from this post here, with the fact that Zohran Mamdani apparently lives in a rent-stabilized apartment, which is an important distinction from rent-controlled. It's not in a rent-controlled apartment. Rent-controlled apartments are like 1% of the rent stock in New York City, whereas rent-stabilized apartments are like half of the apartments in New York City. So it's a massive portion of the city that's living in rent-stabilized apartments. Zohran happens to be living in one of those, and Andrew Cuomo, for some bizarre reason, thinks that this is like the ultimate attack against Zohran, and that he's freeloading and he's causing people to be homeless because he lives in this apartment. I mean, this is literally the post that he's going with here. He says, somewhere last night in New York City, a single mother and her children slept at a homeless shelter because of you, Zohran, are occupying her rent-controlled apartment. I mean, he's saying this is the big issue for him, right? Zohran Mamdani lives in a rent-stabilized, not rent-controlled, but rent-stabilized apartment, and that is causing a single mother and her children to sleep out on the streets. This is the attack that he's going with here. And Hakeem Jeffries was asked about this, and he says it's a legitimate issue that has been raised, and the Mamdani campaign is going to have to address it. It's not a legitimate issue. It's not a legitimate issue at all. Again, we're talking about something that's roughly like half of the housing stock in New York City. And when Zohran originally got that apartment, he was making something like $49,000 a year. This is something that's a legitimate issue that has to be addressed. And Andrew Cuomo's plan for housing in New York City is apparently he wants to put forward like this Zohran's Law or something like that to basically do more means testing on affordable housing in New York, as if that's the issue, right? Obviously coming as a counter message to Zohran Mamdani, who wants to freeze the rent, who wants to build more affordable housing, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's like full-blown panic mode here from the Cuomo campaign. They have absolutely nothing on Zohran, and so they're lashing out on this one specific thing that I really think nobody cares about in terms of it being some sort of a successful attack. It's just not gonna be. And you have the House leadership that's going along with this attack and saying it's a legitimate thing that's being raised. It's really not a legitimate thing at all. I mean, this is just it's a nothing burger. This, if anything, gives you an indication that he has nothing on Zohran, right? And we have, I'll show you this, but just as a reminder here, guys, in terms of why all of this is happening, it's important to point out, like, the reason why Hakeem Jeffries doesn't support Zohran Mamdani is not because he lives in a rent-stabilized apartment or because he disagrees with his, other policies on affordability or the grocery stores or whatever the case may be. It's because of this. Like, we know why Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer don't want to get behind Zohran Mamdani. It's because he has a principled stance as a critic of Israeli apartheid and ethnic cleansing and the genocide that's currently happening in Gaza and U.S. government complicity in that genocide. I mean, Zohran has openly stated that he would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu in accordance with international law with the arrest warrants from the ICC that have been levied against Netanyahu. He said he would arrest him if he steps foot in New York City. And so guys like Hakeem Jeffries and guys like Schumer who are rabid Zionists and backed by the millions by AIPAC, of course they're not going to back him. So this is the real reason that Hakeem Jeffries is uncomfortable getting behind Zohran. If everything about Zohran was the same, except he was an Israel supporter, he would have already endorsed him. Okay, so it's not some mystery as to why we're in the position that we are right now. Now, returning just real briefly to this attack ad about him renting a rent-stabilized apartment, $2,300 a month or something. He's literally using this to respond as if it's a gotcha. He posted this down below to a video that Zohran put out. That was amazing. We'll watch through this short little minute-and-a-half video here, an attack ad basically from Zohran, but he puts this down below with no caption, no explanation, as if the fact that he said in the debate with Cuomo that he rents a $2,300 apartment in Astoria, that this is like a clapback to the video that Zohran put out. So let's go ahead and watch the video that Zohran put out and see how his attacks against Cuomo are stacking up here.
4 years ago, Andrew Cuomo resigned in disgrace, and you probably know why.
The governor's office kept the nursing home death data secret.
Cuomo aggressively groped an aide.
Inappropriately touched a female state trooper.
Use of state resources for a COVID-19 memoir.
Less well known is what he spent the last 4 years doing, besides getting trounced in the Democratic primary. In 2022, Cuomo started Innovation Strategies LLC to represent individuals and corporations in a variety of matters. Definitely not vague. Last year, it raked in more than $500,000. Who paid for Cuomo's services? He refuses to say. But what journalists have been able to piece together is troubling. In April, Bloomberg revealed that Cuomo advised a cryptocurrency exchange based in the Seychelles as it faced federal investigations. Then in May, Politico reported that Cuomo failed to disclose $2.6 million in stock options to the New York City Conflicts of Interest Board. His excuse? The stocks were technically owned by Innovation Strategies LLC, of which he's the sole proprietor. Finally, in June, the New York Times uncovered that Cuomo had worked with his longtime friend Andrew Farkas on a luxury marina project in Puerto Rico. Farkas' previous partner on luxury marinas in the Caribbean? Jeffrey Epstein.
We had a finance chair like none other, Andrew Farkas.
That's the thing about Andrew Cuomo. Once you think you found out about all of his scandals, you find out about another, and then probably another. But if my friend, the disgraced former governor of the state of New York, feels that's unfair, Habibi, release your client list.
Okay, I mean, again, you compare the attack from Andrew Cuomo. Hey, man, you live in a $2,300 a month bedroom in Astoria. Compare that to what we just saw. Attacking him on potential connections to Jeffrey Epstein. Attacking him on the nursing home scandal where he killed people's grandmothers. Attacking him on pulling public funds for his COVID-19 memoir. His corrupt connections to billionaires and shady sort of shell companies that he's using without any sort of disclosure on his stock options, etc. All of these different ways. Andrew Cuomo is wildly corrupt. He's wildly corrupt. And credit to Zohran and his team for, I guess, at the bare minimum, like actually knowing how to run attack ads effectively, how to put together things that are, easy to digest and get to the point. I don't even know who decided from Andrew Cuomo's campaign that this was the thing that they were going to clap back with. I mean, you can see from
4 years ago, Andrew Cuomo.
You can see from the interaction here that this video has 200,000 likes, 18 million views, and down here he got 500 likes and had 1.4 thousand replies of people dunking on him. I mean, the first one here is literally LMAO, what dipshit is running your account, Andrew? And it has more than 10 times the amount of likes than Andrew Cuomo's clapback there. So, again, to give you a perspective in terms of how the Cuomo campaign is doing versus how the Zohran campaign is doing. Now, one final thing that I'll show you guys before we get to the polling data and I finish off this video is that it's not just, Republicans who are helping and Trump potentially who's going to help the Cuomo campaign and, the ADL also smearing Zohran Mamdani as an anti-Semite. It's the entire establishment of the Republican and Democratic parties. And it's also the mainstream media, including the nominally, left wing or liberal outlets like MSNBC. And so this is a clip that kind of blew my mind when I saw it for the first time, because this seems to me at least to just break all standards of journalistic integrity. So here we have this guy, Tom Rogers, right, who comes on the show to bash Zohran Mamdani and is calling for Democrats to consolidate around Andrew Cuomo. So this guy Rogers is a senior advisor at Versant, which runs MSNBC. So basically, the host is interviewing her own boss to allow him to attack Zohran Mamdani, the lefty candidate, in favor of the corporate billionaire-owned candidate, Andrew Cuomo. And they admit it there at the end of the clip, which you'll see, but it's like, why the fuck is this interview even happening in the first place? It's incredible. So let's go ahead and watch this.
Writing about those national Democrats who want to try and stop Mamdani, or the New York Democrats who might want to try and stop Mamdani, what are you advising them to do?
Well, the reason I say we're sleepwalking into this is everybody knows this is, in the centrist elements of the Democratic Party, knows this is not a good thing. But the circumstances are such with a four-way race, incumbent Mayor Adams, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, and the Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa, four-way race, Mamdani wins. And the only way I think this can be a real election, which New York City residents deserve, between a far-left candidate and a centrist candidate, is to get this down to a one-on-one race so we can have a real election. election here. Unfortunately, that's a very difficult thing to do, and circumstances on the ground just aren't changing. In order for circumstances on the ground to change, I think we need to get this down to a race between Mamdani and Cuomo.
Okay, Tom Rogers, who's now advising Versa, which I think John makes him our boss. Tom, thank you very much for coming in. We agree with every single thing you said.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, so smart. His new piece for Newsweek.
I mean, this almost seems like something that you would see like from The Onion, right? You have a news anchor praising her boss, admitting, well, this kind of makes you my boss, but everything you just said was so smart. And we agree with everything that you just said as he goes on this bashing campaign against Zohran Mamdani and calls for Democrats to get behind Andrew Cuomo and for the other two candidates to drop out of the race. I mean, I've never seen anything like that where they're just so open and brazen about the sort of corporate ownership and billionaire ownership of their networks, just right in your face. I'm going to interview my own corporate overlord boss and praise him and suck him off live on air as he bashes the leftist candidate for the general election. I mean, it's just phenomenal stuff there, MSNBC. Good reminder in terms of why independent media has some value, right? Now, last couple of things here, and then we'll finish up. In terms of the polling data, on where everything stands right now, because the one thing that Tom Rogers there just got right is that at least in a four-way race, it's not particularly close. I mean, this is a collection of some polls that, date all the way from last week in August to, June and July. So some of these may be a little bit outdated, but the most recent ones here over the last month or so, overwhelmingly, Mamdani is up. I mean, plus 18, plus 19, plus 28, plus 18. I mean, you got to go back to early July to find one that's even remotely close here. You have Andrew Cuomo in second, Curtis Lewa still pulling anywhere between like 12 to 20% here, and Eric Adams just straggling on there in the far back with less than 10% of the vote. So, I mean, even if you were to have like Eric Adams drops out and he endorses Andrew Cuomo, that still wouldn't be enough in pretty much all of these polls. I guess if you added all of Curtis Lewa's support to that to get behind Andrew Cuomo, which I don't think that, all or even most of the supporters from Curtis Lewa would vote for Andrew Cuomo. I don't think that would happen. Maybe there would be some portion of them that would, and then that brings it to a closer race. But I mean, it's sweeping at this point. It's sweeping. So clearly you can see that like it's not just that he did well with the Democratic base, right? He's doing well in the general election, no matter which way you want to split it. In fact, I also saw this poll, which, would stun people who think that Zohran is this like radical left candidate who nobody in a general election could get behind. This is a poll, Siena poll from early August here, August 4th through the 7th, and it's amongst conservatives in New York City. And so you have number one here, Curtis Lewa with 40%, but in second place here, in front of Andrew Cuomo, the more right-leaning person in the race, and then also in front of Eric Adams, who's also to the right of Zohran Mamdani, you have Zohran himself at 23%. I mean, he's sizably ahead of Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams among conservative voters in New York City. So, honestly, I hope that all four of these guys do stay in the race, because I think that'll make Zohran's job a lot easier, and I think he'll walk away with a sweeping victory. But we're going to see some underhanded, dirty tactics that are going to come into play over the next couple of weeks and months here. I mean, we're already seeing some of it, again, from top Republican figures, from Donald Trump himself, from the Democratic establishment, from top donors, from groups like the ADL and groups like AIPAC and the media establishment. So they're going to try to pull everything out at this point. Given the attack lines that we're seeing from guys like from guys like Andrew Cuomo, it doesn't seem like they really have much on Zohran. So I guess good luck. And I think if he sticks to his messaging, he sticks to his campaign focused on what's in the best material interest for average working class people, he's going to win.
Politic guy has the best politics. Believe me, no one does it like him. Believe me. Everyone is saying